Meantime, the Republican National Committee is meeting in San Diego this week with the president's speech and perhaps pursuit of the presidency in 2016, the topics on the table. To go further in depth now, we're pleased to be joined by Raffi Williams, Deputy Press Secretary for Youth and Conservative Media with the Republican National Committee. Pardon the pun, it's for youth and for meath. To Terry. Raffi,
that was good.
It's really rough. Early in the morning. Raffi, we're glad to have you here. And you're Skyping in from Washington. I won't ask you if you took it up with the chairman about what he's doing out in San Diego with you stuck in Washington. I won't go there. But I do want to go with news that there may be an appearance by Mitt Romney at this conference. Is that on the schedule?
That is. Mitt Romney will be meeting with the RNC members on Friday, but we also have other great Republicans like Ben Carson, Rick Perry will be there as well. Scott Walker is going to be there, as well as the mayor of San Diego, Kevin Faulconer, who's the mayor of the largest Republican in charge of the largest city in the country.
Raffi, you have said that the president will praise bipartisanship in theory, yet he's already threatening to get out that veto pen. And there are two things in particular that the Republicans seem to be zoning in on, one being the Keystone Pipeline and Obamacare. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, so Obama, ever since he had his robust defeat in November, has been talking about how he wants to work with Republicans in Congress. He heard what the American people want, and he's willing to work with Republicans. But what we've seen in these first 2 weeks of Congress being in session is Obama has just pointed out time and time again that he's more willing to veto. He wants it his way or the highway. He wants more executive actions, and he's not interested in actually working to build any bipartisan consensus around anything. He's more interested in playing petty politics, and it was shown last week when he went on his campaign swing. We don't think he's actually interested in moving the ball forward. We look at the 30-hour work week that's in Obamacare right now, and we want to make that a full-time work, a 40-hour work week, because that's traditionally what it's been, and it'll help American workers. It'll make sure that people don't have their hours cut to under 30, and we want to move it to 40 hours. He said he's going to veto that. That's a strong piece of legislation that has bipartisan support in Congress. Another one is, as you mentioned, was the Keystone Pipeline. Again, another piece of legislation that has bipartisan support. Most Americans support it. The unions even support it. Yet Obama still has issued a veto threat against that because he's dragged his feet for 6 years on the issues that matter and Americans care about.
You mentioned the president was campaigning last week. It's curious because he doesn't have to run for office again, but it's almost as if he was like the old days of Broadway shows when they take the show on the road for a preview before the opening performance there on Broadway. The big stage is next week with the State of the Union message. Coming in, you heard what the president had to say about the economy and what some say will be his victory lap on the economy. What do you believe Republican leaders will respond with to that alleged victory lap next week?
It's a little delusional, this victory lap that Obama is taking right now, because labor force participation is still in Carter-era lows right now. You've seen wage stagnation, so most of the middle class does not think that they're any better off than they were when the recession started. And that's really troubling because the middle class is truly the engine of our country that's really going to get us humming and going again. And until they start feeling the effects of this so-called bounce back that Obama keeps on talking about, it's not going to connect and resonate with them. And there is a strong disconnect between Obama's Washington reality and what people are really feeling out in the country. And you can see that as he goes on these tours with less people getting enthused about it, less coverage in the local press, because nobody is actually believing what he's saying.
Raffi, let's talk education, because President Obama recently detailed a plan to make 2 years of tuition at a community college free for eligible students, but Republicans don't seem to like that idea and actually have an alternative proposal that they'd like to see go through. Can you talk to us about the HERO Act?
Well, what's going on here with Obama and the schools is he wants to federalize state-based programs right now and add a layer of bureaucracy to it. He's basically taking a program from Tennessee that does 2 years of free community college if you can have high enough grades, if you graduate high school. And that is able to be paid for because they have a balanced budget amendment in Tennessee. What Obama wants to do is make the federal bureaucracy take that program over, federalize it for all the states. But in fact, a lot of states already have a similar program. This is real small ball stuff. This is going to cost $60 billion for the federal government money that we don't need to be spending on a program that's better held by the states. And if states think that this is successful and can help educate their workforce and help their workforce and their economic output, then we are all for the states going after this. But we think that the federal takeover of this is a mistake. It's going to create more bloated bureaucracy. And we know how the federal government works. It slows everything down. So we'd rather see it in the hands of the states that are more nimble.
I have about a minute remaining, Raffi, and I want to make sure I understand that we give the proper amplification to this. So a program that many states already have in place, such as Tennessee, where they're able to use a surplus, where there is free community college, the president wants to federalize, and you said the price tag on that was how many billions?
It's $60 billion for the federal government, but all it's said and done, it's $80 billion when you count the money that Obama wants the states to include as well. So it's $80 billion when we already have a $17 trillion debt. Now, if you want to talk about helping future generations, this is not the way to do it, because right now as it sits, I'm not sure Social Security is going to be there for me. I'm not sure Medicare is going to be there for me, and this is just going to deplete federal funds even faster.
Fair enough. Raffi Williams of the Republican National Committee, we appreciate your time, and that, I don't know if we call it a preview or a pre-sponse, a combination of a preview and a response to the president's expected talking points in next week's State of the Union address. Sir, as always, our thanks.
Thank you.